The
Youthscape Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Youthscape Podcast with me, Martin Saunders.
That was so disconcerting, and with me, Rachel Gardner. And for those that are listening just through their luggles, normally you look at me when you say it, and today you looked at the camera.
Yeah, it was quite passive aggressive, wasn't it? I like to talk to an imaginary camera when I'm cross with Rachel.
But actually, this is a real camera this time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Do you want to paint the scene, Martin?
Well, yes. So we are. If you are listening to this, if you're watching this, we're describing what you can see. So that's not very interesting.
No,
but if you're listening to this, we are filming today. We are going to film this whole episode, and so we are in a different location. We are downstairs in the basement of Butte Mills.
I think there's something psychologically quite distressing that I've had to deal with today, because normally I get in at the lift at the bottom. Anyone who's been to Youthscape, we've got this lovely lift, and I normally press number 2. I'm going up, Martin.
Yeah.
I'm going to see my friends on the second floor, and then I climb the final flight of stairs up to the recording studio. Today, I got in the lift, went up, and then was told I have to go to the lower ground.
Yeah.
So I went down into the belly of Youthscape.
You know what that is? That's a sign that your career has peaked, and now it's only down.
Only way is down,
That's right.
baby.
Yes.
So but it's nice because lovely producer Amy has got us croissants and coffee.
Yeah, but we're not allowed to have them on the table.
No, that's right.
So we had to eat them quickly.
Because film producer James doesn't want any extra noise.
Yes, we've got a crew today. It's very exciting. We have producer Amy, who's now she's graduated from being trainee Amy, and she's now full.
She's beautiful.
Producer Amy, and then we also have producer film producer
James,
who's on the camera right now. I don't know how can you wave or something? Look, there he is. Look. There he is. Of course, if you were listening to that,
was just his hand.
That made no sound at all.
The holy hand.
Yeah.
And then someone is just wandering around the building. I'm going to call him Button Pusher Matt, because I think he just presses a button.
Wow.
Matt, way to elevate you and encourage you. Matt, we love you. Are you like, what's the name of like the person that holds that thing?
Clapper loader. Gaffer. Best boy,
Matt.
Wow.
Brilliant.
That is extremely condescending.
Extraordinary. Anyway.
Very, very you.
You have tuned in to the Youthscape podcast, where we like to bring to you the good and the great of the youth ministry world. People that are innovating stuff, people that have got new ideas, maybe they are renewing old ideas, people that have been in youth ministry for a long time, people that are brand new to the tribe. And before you have that, though, you have to wade. And I'm saying you have to wade through me and Martin, because we, between these interview dates, we don't spend a lot of time chatting. So we have to catch up.
We do. We talk daily.
Actually, we do.
I think it's nice.
And I say, Martin, it's a daily phone call. Yeah,
it's nice to create the illusion that we're friends in real life.
Yeah, because you're my line manager. That's why we have to chat every day. Okay. But anyway.
Wow. You are cranky when you have to get up at 4:30.
I'm not. It's all brought with love.
You drove down this morning from
did.
sunny Preston.
I did. It's Preston.
Which you haven't mentioned for a while.
I've not moved. Preston is moving. I'm sure it's a cheeky city. I'm sure it moves 10 miles north every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
So how long did it take you to get from Preston to Luton?
7 hours. No, I left at about 4:45 and I got here about 9.
Oh, that's not too bad.
No, it's not too bad, actually.
And you're all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed this morning,
I've got bright red lipstick on because I'm ready for the day.
And you came in wearing... Can you go and get it? Where is it?
I'm wearing...
She's allowed to go and get it. James, is she allowed to go and get it? He's nodding. Right, go and get the thing.
There we go. Thank you, Gaffer.
Stop it.
So
look at this.
So it's a bright red lipstick, bright orange puffer jacket, and then a pink and black animal skirt.
Wow.
People, I'm all about the colour mashup today.
What do people think? Sorry again if you're only listening to this, but if there was ever an incentive to go and find the video version, that was it. But what do people in Preston look at you a bit funny for the way that you dress?
I think they. No, I don't think they do. I think they've got fashion all over it, but I think they do, and I quite like that.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're not fashionable.
Yeah.
I'm saying, do they look at you funny for the way you dress?
Well, I found a little shop that does like very, 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 very second-hand stuff, so stuff that's slightly broken, and it's all the brands that I love. So I feel like I can be an ethical shopper at less money and be slightly more outrageous. So it's my sweet spot, really. Well, Martin, what are you wearing? Just so we're not just a
I'm as ever, just wearing the same bluish.
Oh dear, we will change that one day. Anyway,
do you know what? Just before we get our guest on, I wanted to get really innovative and into the depths of youth culture.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about what's really going on with the young people of 2020.
Which was that's a very bad start, isn't
and you
it,
know
really?
me,
Yeah.
I am absolutely...
Finger on the pulse.
Absolutely, yes. I tried to be cool with my my kids the other day.
Your actual personal
with my own
kids?
kids,
Oh,
yeah. And my wife was in the car, and I was trying to impress my wife with my knowledge of pop culture.
Right.
And so we were talking about Bastille, who are not a particularly youth band, but they are at least a band that brought songs out in the last 10 years, right? And so my wife said, "Oh, what Bastille? What have they done?" And I said, "Oh, they did that one, the big one that's produced by that guy, Marmalade." And it turns out it's not called Marmalade; it's called Marshmallow.
Oh no!
Yeah. So even when I
classic.
do grasp just a little fragment of what's really going on for young people
just
5 years ago,
say.
I still can't get it right. So
So what makes you keep going back to that watering hole?
I don't, but listen.
Dried up along
So
the
here we go.
back?
Because seriously,
Yes.
if you talk to the young people right now, what's going on? Biggest TV show in the world right now. Do you know what it is?
Love Island.
Friends.
Oh no, it is. You're right. No, I didn't know that.
Friends.
Yes, weird.
And the funny thing is, I'm an expert in that.
So can we explore why that is?
Yes.
Because it's the same. It's also reached Preston.
What?
Absolutely.
They
yeah.
find it, but that's the
young
first time
people-
round up there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to get into trouble for that.
You are going to get into trouble. So why is it recently back on Netflix? What is?
So Netflix got the rights. So
Yeah.
the rights have bounced around, and every few years somebody pays a ridiculous amount of money. Like Comedy Central paid millions and millions for it.
Seriously?
And different things. Now it's on Netflix, and because Netflix is what the kids are watching.
Yeah.
That is it's become the number one show.
Vintage.
Everywhere. And so Netflix have paid a massive amount of money to have it. When they took it off, I think in the States, there was massive outcry that it had gone. And kids love it. And I think there's some interesting stuff going on there. It is still very funny. It's still
banter, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
there's
never
lots of
gets
stuff.
old, yeah.
But I think it's the fact that it's a little bit politically incorrect. And there's some stuff you're not allowed to make jokes about. A load of the stuff that they make jokes about in Friends now. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I just think it's a reason why kids are watching it. Because it's suddenly become...
Do you think it actually is a reason why they're watching
edgy.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, oh, there's jokes in Friends that you would never get
I'm
like
gonna
on
ask,
BBC Three
I'm
now.
going to ask people because I've noticed they're watching it more, but I'm going to find out what the reasons are.
But also, the whole merchandising thing has kicked off in a way that, like in my house, there's all this Friends memorabilia. My daughter got up excruciatingly in church on Sunday and did the actions to a song wearing a T-shirt saying, "How you doing?"
Oh no!
Yeah, which I
The
wondered.
smelly cat
I
come
wonder
back.
whether some old ladies would have a problem with that. I don't know about smelly cat.
Smelly cat.
Pivot has become the big
word.
The big word. If you go
Yes.
into certain shops, there are pivot T-shirts, there are
Yes.
pivot mugs. It's a big thing.
I tell you what will never come back though. It's
on.
the Rachel hairstyle. So I remember about episodes. Was it season 3 where she goes for the kind of, and we all did it. I
I
remember
don't want to
being
be a
at
geek,
Bible
but
college.
it's season 2.
Is it season 2? And
Yeah.
I remember being at Bible college and getting that exact haircut.
Did you?
Which required heavy blow drying action. So a
Wow.
lot of blow drying was required for that haircut. So I don't think that'll come back.
Wait a minute. Is that also when you changed your name to Rachel? Were you previously
I was Joey.
you were previously before that you were Brenda Gardner?
I was, and that's when I became Rachel.
Oh, it's
How
okay.
interesting.
Embrace it. If
Isn't
you're
that
Brenda, be
interesting?
Brenda.
But that is interesting, isn't it? That never before has the debate been so toxic around what you can and can't
Yeah.
say, and just the deep fear around offence, and yet there's a programme, as you say, which kind of gleefully,
Yeah.
well, it doesn't even kind of just go hammer and tong, because at the time didn't realise they were going hammer and tong.
Well, I
with
think
that
they
stuff.
did. Friends, I think we've said this before on the podcast, but Friends has a joke on every possible awful thing you can imagine. There is nothing that Friends doesn't have a joke about.
You would know that because you beat Phoebe Hill in the Friends
in
quiz.
the Office
in
Friends
that-
quiz, yeah.
On the podcast.
Oh, the podcast Friends quiz.
We had a special podcast.
And so I think that's one of the reasons why kids are
So
watching
is it good then? So actually, does this generation need that? Is that showing? Is it like a canary in the well that things are so tense and tight, and there's no room that if suddenly a generation are all charging to watch Friends, which in terms of fashion and cultural references are miles away from today. But is that what they need? Are they needing a space where, actually, all this stuff that I want to, not that I want to say because I want to be bigoted or small-minded, but because I just want to be relaxed enough to not have to second-guess myself.
Yeah.
That really matters.
Well, do you know what? I don't know the answer to that. What we really need right now
We need a young person.
is a teenager.
We need a teenager. Is there a teenager? Teenager, because between us, how many years do you and I clock up together between us?
We are
like
between
80s,
things. I don't know how old you are,
You
and I don't
know
think
how
you
old I
need to
am.
say that.
I'm
But you're
everyone's
similar
43.
age to
I'm
me.
always telling everybody.
You're never
I am 40.
You're not
I
43.
am.
43.
But we're in our 80s, so
Well,
we
between
do
us.
need a teenager.
We are sometimes. I think we come across like a couple in their 80s.
Look.
Oh!
Evidence that somebody has been sat here and been told to move over there until we invite them into the space to give it a little bit of drama.
Oh.
Should we invite him in?
I'm suddenly thinking Hollywood now. I'm wondering whether
We've got
James
a teenager.
can you zoom in on the glass of water, and then can it like Jurassic Park?
have
Can you
like Prince,
Can
like-
you add
Can we have
like
his?
a ripple to it, so it's like a T-Rex is
Okay,
coming
look.
over?
Look, it's doing it.
No,
It's doing it.
he was
Here they
gonna
come.
use special effects for that.
Sorry. Should we get the actual
Yeah,
young
let's
person?
do
I mean, we are being so patronising of a young person for a podcast that's about youth ministry.
Yeah.
Can I just put that out there?
Yeah. He's
we're
sitting there.
very
Do you know what?
sorry.
When we started, I saw him out the corner of my eye. He was like, "Oh, this seems good." And then by like a quarter of an hour in, he's like, "What have I?
What's
have I? I
happened?
got up at 5:30 for
I
this."
know for this. Joel, come
Hey,
in.
Joel.
Hello.
Joel, tell us, who are you?
Hello, I'm Joel. Nice to meet you all. I intern for Kintsugi Hope, what's a mental health charity in the UK.
Fantastic.
You're not my son, Joel. Should we just make
No,
that clear?
I'm not your son.
I've mentioned I have a son called Joel. I mean, I know the resemblance is uncanny.
Uncanny.
But in fact, put the glasses on. Let's just see.
Oh dear, this could.
Hang on.
Oh no.
They're
this-
very dirty. Oh my goodness!
I'm
it's like,
basically you.
It's like looking in a mirror.
Oh, I think we found the next host of the Youthscape
Wow.
podcast.
Yeah.
I
So
always threaten.
look, we'll get on to talking about Kintsugi Hope in a second, but the important question of the day, as the elderly have been discussing
Elderly,
it.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
So Friends. Have
Yeah.
you been swept up in the wave of Friends?
I love it.
You love it?
I love it. So I watched it, I think, last year. I watched all of the seasons. But I think it's sick. And for me, I was really upset though, because I thought there was 11 series, but there was 10. So I got to the last episode, and it's like you don't know what's happening.
cliffhanger, yeah.
And they're like going, play next. And they're like, there's no.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
So yeah, it was a heartbreaking end for me, but
Yeah.
it was good.
That's
Did you,
especially
did you
hard.
lose interest towards that final season where it does become much more about their domestic lives and where they're going to end up in the future? And it suddenly does get a little bit more serious and adult, I think, that's that
Yeah.
final season.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I really liked the different
Yeah.
vibe of it. And from what you guys were saying about why teenagers
Yeah.
like it, I think you're correct about how it's not politically correct anymore, and people like that.
Yeah.
And also, for me anyway, the fashion side of things, I love, because now that fashion's come back
Oh, yeah,
in.
90s is in.
Yeah, it's
90s
in. So it's like,
yeah.
oh, this is really cool.
Of course.
So it feels like what your parents would look like if they were wearing the fashion that you're wearing now. I mean, if I just like destroyed it for you.
I know, my mum, I come downstairs, mum goes, I had that 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? That little crop top there, that little
Yeah.
Rachel hairdo.
Anyway,
Martin,
so
we're old.
so turns out that was a genuine youth culture insight. Young people really are.
Look at
into it.
you.
Well, young people.
Practically a teenager.
When I took the glasses off for a
were
moment,
practically.
if I didn't have the beard, you would have thought. So, so Joel, tell us about what you do for Kintsugi Hope, and then we'll find out a bit more about you. Generally.
Awesome, yeah, of course. So I look after the youth and social media aspects of the charity. So we've created a 12-week course, what you do in your small groups, you do in churches. And it looks through loads of different areas of mental health. And it's a peer mentoring scheme where people discuss what you do and how you've coped with stuff. Because we really want to just put out there how if you've got physical health, then you've got mental health. So we need to look after physical as much as we need to look after mental.
Yeah.
So we've created this course, what people do alongside their small groups, for example, set up with a local church. And I look after the youth side of this all. So we've rewritten the course for a 6-week course for youth.
Right.
So I look after that.
Have you rewritten into sort of youthy language?
Youthy
I
language,
noticed you used the
yeah.
word sick earlier.
Yeah.
Does that appear in the course?
I'm not sure. I feel like it might do.
I love it, Joel, that you didn't even notice you used that word. Old man over here.
Yeah.
Like,
Did he say
Ooh.
sick?
I'll write that down. I'll add that to my
mean?
Add that to my list to do.
marmalade.
Marmalade?
Go home sick. Let's go.
Yeah. Sick fam.
Yeah, so I do that, and then I look after the social media side of things
It's
as well.
amazing. And I think it's so cool that a guy is leading on this, a man's leading on it. I was listening to the radio recently Every time I open my mouth, I sound about 90 years old.
As an old person,
I listen
to
the radio. But Ben Stokes, is he a cricketer? Ben
Yes.
Stokes. So he recently was talking about how his dad died a year ago, and he had all this like pent up anger and sadness about it. And before the famous match where he did actually blow his top a bit, and he's been fined loads for it. But he said before he started these series of matches, he talked to his friends, he talked to the staff that he was working with about his mental health, about how he felt. And he said 2 or 3 years ago he wouldn't have done that. And I'm hearing a lot more. I know it's been happening for a while, but I'm hearing a lot more young guys in the public eye talking about their mental health. So I, as someone who is much older, go, that's great. So young people get to hear other young-ish people talk about it. Is that on teenagers' radar? Are they hearing these voices and going, great, that gives me permission? Or does it not really affect them in the same way? What's your
No, I think it does connect. Because I think my generation and then the people younger than me, we've grown up in a time where our idols are influencers. The people we follow are social media influencers, not footballers kind of, but now it's who's online, who's got 1 million followers. We follow those
Can you
kinds of
name
people.
some? Just
I noticed you pointed at me.
Yeah, it's you.
As you said.
Martin, number one. But like, for example...
models?
Yeah, models,
musicians.
like musicians. So I think now for us it's like people like Harry Styles and Justin Bieber. We follow them.
Yeah.
And then in the social media realm, people will follow Jake Paul, Logan Paul.
Yeah.
People will follow those kinds of people. David Dobrik, for example. So we follow them. It's about what they're talking about. And I think when they're open about it, we get open about it. Because something what I'm realising a lot more as I work with youth and as I look at my own mental health is our generation wants something more. We're happy to have something more. We're open to it, but we've got to feel accepted and known before we look at it. So when an influencer makes you feel accepted and makes you feel known, you're like, oh, okay, I can then talk about my feelings. And I think teenagers are only going to talk about their mental health if they're in a safe and supportive space.
Wow.
And the people who are actually influencers are using their influence really well. Cynical question. Do you feel these influencers are, because of their age and stage of life, are actually like naturally using their platforms to do that? Or has there been a big campaign behind the scenes that said, right, actually, like amazing charities like Mind and like Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, like these people who are maybe outside of who would inspire young people, but they've been sort of creating that backwash, if you've got to be, that's the wrong word, isn't it, but kind of that landscape, you've got to be doing this. So what's your sense? Are we seeing more people naturally saying, I'm having a really tough day, I'm feeling depressed, that's okay, it's okay to be not to be okay? Or have you seen a big push behind it that's made that happen?
So I think for me and for people who I know and looking at it all, I think it's people realising it's okay to be honest is the first thing. And the second thing with influencers and people like that, it's realising they got a platform and realising most of the time they're the ones who are struggling the most with all this. They're struggling so much with mental health and struggling with anxiety, depression, they're struggling with this. So when they're open about it, it frees them up and it makes them do their job easier. Because if you're an influencer, yourself is your brand. So if you're vulnerable and honest, you can never be caught up in your brand, because if you're true to yourself. So I think we're looking at a stage of people going, okay, if this is my brand, I need to be honest, or I can't fake this for the next 5-10 years.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Now, we talked about this just before we started filming, and you were talking a bit about your own experience of trying to become a sort of big league influencer, and through that you knew lots of those people who have gone on to do that. So what did going through that experience teach you about where people who are, that whole quest for Instagram or YouTube fame?
Yeah, definitely. So, bit of backstory. I, for most of my teenage years, tried to be an influencer. I tried to do YouTube. I tried to be famous, and that was my goal. And I got, to some people, semi-famous. To other people, I wouldn't got famous at all. And so I got in the circuit of doing a lot of meet and greets and going across the country and meeting fans and doing shows. And the thing what I realised about it all is you'll never get enough of it.
Wow.
If that makes sense. So my goal would be like, oh, sick, I want to go to an event and people want to take a photo of me. That's my goal. I'll do that. Only 100 people took a photo of me.
Wow.
Only 1,000 people. Like, it's that kind of thing. You're never going to have enough if you're seeking that.
Yeah.
And people are realising that. So I've been with people who are like on stage, woo, this is amazing, let's go. But backstage they're struggling.
So can I ask you, and you're being so incredibly honest, so you haven't got to answer this, but what impact did that have on your mental health? So you're going and thinking, I want 1,000 people to take a photo, only 100 have. So that's crushing, isn't it, if your goal is that? What impact did that have on you?
For me, it made my identity really hard for 5 years. And for 5 years I had to go back and forth with God going, okay, God, who do you say I am? And having to keep going back on a daily thing. And the way I put it to people is, people kind of get it but don't unless you're in the circuit. Imagine going to work and you get paid by not how good your job is, not how good you are at your job, not how successful you are, but how many people in the office like you. And depending on the way they like you, depends on how much you get paid.
Wow.
And if you did that every day, you'd be like, okay, am I looking good today? Okay, what am I saying?
Change, wouldn't
yeah,
it?
you completely change your whole mindset. So for me, and for people who I've talked to, it's about understanding that, but you've got to leave your work at work. And that's something you've got to really be conscious about. If not, you go down a spiral of where your likes and your followers really make your identity.
Wow.
So for me, that was a big issue, and that's something I'm really passionate about now.
Wow, that's incredibly vulnerable. Thank you. Wow. So this course that you were talking about, that Kintsugi are piloting at the moment.
Yes.
People might be very interested in finding out a bit more about that, and also, I think are you still running pilots?
Yeah,
you're still looking for people.
Yeah, we're looking for people and we're running pilots
to
right now.
pilot it, to essentially get young people talking about their mental health. So if people are interested in that, how do they find out more? Is it possible for them to do?
Yes, of course. We're looking for pilots across the country. If you've got a youth group, then perfect. You just go to our website, kintsugihope.com, and we can get you sorted. There's contact details there, and we'll find you. Basically, we'll hunt you down, and you can do a pilot. That's basically, a bit aggressive, but you want to know.
And just because people don't know, people might have heard our interview with Patrick Regan in the past, but Kintsugi, not Kintsugi.
Not Kintsugi. And if I'm saying it wrong again, we apologise. We keep going back and forth.
Somebody's gone and actually
Someone's gone to Japan, and they've told us
Japan.
the right way, so I think we've got it right now.
What does it mean? What is the idea of the metaphor?
So it is a Japanese word that when pots break in Japan, instead of throwing them away like we would, they glue them back together with gold glue. They look more unique and more beautiful than before they were broken.
Okay.
And it's about going, there's beauty in your scars. There's beauty in your brokenness. And just because you're broken doesn't mean you can't succeed. And it's about helping people realise, okay, you've gone through that stuff. Okay, you are struggling. But there's beauty in that, because that's what makes you who you are.
Amazing. Can I ask you a bit more about the influencer role?
Go
I'm
ahead.
really fascinated by that, because I think there's going to be youth workers and volunteers listening to this who have young people that they are serving and working among who have that equal heart of you. And because it's a new thing. Like, people have always been influencers in culture, but this is a new phenomenon in a way, the size of it. So would you say that you felt God call you to be an influencer? Was that more just, actually, I'm a natural extrovert, I've got stuff I want to say, so that's a natural fit for me? Like, can you just talk us through that process?
So I would say it was a mixture of both, I would say. And I think my intention at the start was, okay, let's do this for God. But that intention very quickly changes when you realise what gets views and what doesn't get views.
Wow.
So I think that was something what the past few years has been readjusted in my life is, Joel, who is your Instagram for?
Wow, so you were saying that there'd be certain things that you would talk about and want to kind of lean into that you automatically was much more interesting for people than other things. And so would you say that stuff around faith, whenever you wanted to kind of share about faith, that was tougher, that was...
Yeah, so definitely, I think for me...
I'm being a bit simple, sorry.
No, go ahead. So when I do faith stuff, it'd be dope. I'm like, okay, cool. I do that once a year, and all the Christians would like
all the Christians would love it.
Go Joel, you're amazing.
Yeah.
But no one else would care. So it was, for me, it was like, oh, okay. If I play with my brother in the garden and I chuck eggs at him, that gets views. But if I talk about God, that's not going to get as many views.
Wow. And so what does that do? Because you're still a teenager, and especially as you're going through this, and you are trying to figure out, just this whole idea of faith that you've grown up, haven't you, in a Christian home? Yeah. But you're still figuring out what it means to live that out as your owned faith. So what does that do when you're thinking, God, why are you not? Why is it when I talk about you, I get less recognition? Like, did that start to actually become a faith struggle for you?
And it did for a time. And for me right now, that's something I'm really in. Right now, I felt God called, okay, Joel, your social media is mine.
Wow.
I'm like,
oh my goodness,
and I'm
you're
like-
such a radical.
I'm
It's
like,
amazing.
no, it's not. No, that's not happening.
And
God.
honest.
Yeah. So for 5 months, me and him went through a tug of war.
You went for a tug of war.
Yeah.
God, who won?
Wow.
He
Out of
won.
interest.
He
Okay.
won.
I tell you what, by the way, if you did do that, that would get loads of views.
That was a load of views.
he won, and I'm not going to stay here and go, hey, look, now I've got 1 million followers.
No.
I've actually lost 70% of my likes. I've lost 70% of my engagement.
Wow.
Because I've gone for God. So right now, I'm in this season going, okay, God, I'm following you, I'm not sure where it's going. And I think that's something I struggled with even in the past. I thought, okay, if I do God stuff, that means I'm going to get 1 million followers. That means people are going to come to know Christ. Whereas actually, if I do God stuff, I'm going to plant seeds, but I'm not sure if I'm going to
Gosh,
see
how
the
are you
trees.
so wise, so young? So I was just thinking that that journey that you came to of. Because I think we can fudge it. We can all say, well, I'll keep doing the throwing eggs at my brother because that's just fun. Like,
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
loves that. Can I just say, God loves that. God was laughing as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just keep doing that because after a while, that will build up enough credibility.
Yes.
And we can kind of convince ourselves,
You
can't
do moral
we?
licensing.
We
Yeah.
do.
What you
And,
do.
and actually, you're incredibly brave, to once a year have chosen to do something about your faith. That's probably more than many of us do, really, in a completely unchurched environment. But to actually be bold enough to say, I'm going to do this differently. What's been the impact on your mental health of that? Can you talk a little bit
No,
into
of course,
that?
of
How
course.
is that? Because even though you think that's probably the right thing to do, it doesn't mean automatically like, oh great, yeah. Actually, that can be a wrestling, can't it? And a pain. So
yeah, it's a massive
tell us about
wrestling
that.
because it's sort of readjusting my values and readjusting where my purpose is. So if my purpose is for God, then who am I actually using social media for? So I'd get less users and go, oh, I don't actually need to do that anymore, God. That's not, you're not helping people. But then I'd like go on a night out or be at the pub and someone random would come up to me and go, oh, I watch your videos. I don't believe in God, don't believe anything, but it's interesting. And then just walks away. I'm like, oh, so I'm not getting many views, but
wow,
that God's
the impact,
impacting me, God's showing me, okay, Joel, there's actually something there.
Wow.
So for me, it's all been about, I think, if you know anyone as youth leaders who are trying to do this, is make sure they know who their audience is. Make sure they know who their audience is looking towards. Like, when you're an influencer, you can be so caught up in numbers and people, but you need to make sure you're doing it for one person and not everyone else. You need to make sure it's for God. And I think for me, my mental health is about me being, one, open and honest about it, two, having people around me who help me and support me, and creating this place where I'm vulnerable and I'm transparent in what I do. And I think, thirdly, even to have people on my social media who are going, okay, Joel, why did you post that? Okay, why did you do that? Who was that for?
And people who've got your back.
Yeah, who've got my back.
skin in
People
the
who I
game.
trust.
Yeah,
who
yeah,
I know.
who love you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the idea of it, and that's how I've come into this charity with Youthscape, is going, okay, this generation, and this is something I was very fortunate, will break my heart to see, is our generation is so broken. When I used to do all this stuff, teenagers feel like they can talk to people online more than they can talk to people they know. And so many people message me going, hey, look, I'm broken, I'm depressed, I'm self-harming, I'm suicidal, I don't know what to do. Yeah. And my heart just broke. I'm like, okay, we're struggling. And that's what really led me to work with this charity and help with Kintsugi, because our generation, I think, is in an identity crisis. We're not sure where we're building our foundations. And that's what I'm trying to help with. And I think that's what's incredible about this course. It looks at people in all different areas of their faith going, okay, where's your foundation built? How are you dealing with this? How are you dealing with anxiety? How are you dealing with shame? How are you dealing with anger? How are you dealing with being honest? And I think that's what is so important, is having these conversations where you go, okay, for a minute, I'm going to readjust myself. I'm going to look back and figure out, okay, what is actually going on?
Wow. You're extraordinary, Joel. It's just incredible to listen to you. And I know people will want to definitely get hold of what you're involved with. People love Patrick. We love you, Patrick, because you'll be listening. And Patrick models this, doesn't he, as a leader?
Yeah.
And both within Kintsugi, but also when I moved to Preston, Patrick would regularly text me and my husband, like, I was just thinking about you today. Like, you really, and I think that's just tremendous all through your organisation. You really model that kind of openness. Because there's a difference, isn't there, between vulnerability and vulnerability? Like, where we pretend that we've got it all together.
Yeah.
We let people on a little bit, but you're being genuinely real. Thank you so much. If you want to kind of get a bit more of you, I'm conscious that we've talked about dismantling platforms, and we're now about to say, but tell us your platform. But I think actually people might want to hear a bit more about your story and connect with what you do yourself. How can people do that?
Yeah, awesome. So my social media is Joel Harris UK, and then Konsugi's is Konsugi Hope across everything. If you message either of those,
Brilliant.
We'll get you into the right people and where you need to be, if that makes sense.
And I guess if you've, the kind of the influence roles change a bit, so you're probably not getting loads of stuff sent to you to kind of model and brand. So Martin will give you his jumper now.
Oh, wow.
He will give you his jumper, and you can have this jumper. And you can wear
I'll tell you
it.
why that's not going to happen. Because we're filming this, and I'm wearing a very snug t-shirt.
Is it one of those t-shirts like just shows under there? It's not actually a t-shirt.
No, there is a t-shirt under there.
That's a Friends thing.
There is, there is,
Kind of clothing
there
like
is a t-shirt under there, but it's very, I'm, as they say in Friends, I'm still carrying a little extra holiday weight.
There we go.
So,
We brought it back.
I've, listening to you has been awesome. I think
Yes,
it's been one of the
absolutely,
most
yes.
interesting interviews
We've
done in a long time.
Yeah.
And it seems to me like it's sort of like a retelling of the rich young ruler story in the Bible. This idea of what would it take for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And there seems like you had that moment where you stood before Jesus and said, here's all my followers, here's all my engagement, here's all my likes. And you ended up having to sacrifice, you said 70%.
Yeah.
That must have been harsh. But absolutely worth it.
Yeah, in 2018 I got 100,000 likes altogether.
Wow.
In 2019 I got 30,000 likes.
So it was very easy. Even if you're rubbish at maths.
It's very clear.
It's very clear.
Spot on.
But wow, but I mean, all power to you for doing that.
All
it's amazing.
power to you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Rachel dreams of that sort of engagement.
We'll do the therapy session later.
Oh, wow. Interesting. So, thank you for coming on. Thank you for getting up at 5?
And thank you for texting Martin about that sort of time
Yeah,
as well.
of course.
That's great.
Keep you wide awake.
Keep you wide awake.
And this has been the Youthscape podcast. It's been lovely to have you with us. If you've been watching in 4DX, then it was lovely to imagine watching the Youthscape podcast in 4DX.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Do you not know what 4DX is?
To me.
Oh,
Lord,
where, like,
release him from that.
It shoots water at you.
Oh, I see the chairs move. Okay,
And the chairs move and stuff like that. Let's abandon that. But thank you for listening, and we will be back very soon with another edition of the Youthscape podcast. See you soon.
See ya.